Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, authorities arrested a 21-year-old Victoria man this afternoon. He faces several charges.
The police chief of Seadrift, who was fired, we have new information on why he was let go.
And a reconstruction plan unveiled today following the major collapse of a section of I-95 in Philadelphia.
Well, the heat goes on. There's not a whole lot of hope. As you can see, temperatures running from the mid-80s down along the coast to 97 in Gonzales. Any changes? Probably not. We'll be talking more about that, however, coming up in a moment.
2 Fort Worth police officers honored for rescuing a baby taken during a car theft. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm James Munoz.
And I'm Karina Garcia. Suspended Seadrift Police Chief Leonard Bermia was recently fired by the Seadrift City Council. Now, the Port Lavaca Wave reports a law firm conducted an independent investigation into allegations of sexual harassment of a subordinate employee. In a 7-page summary, it was concluded Bermia violated all 7 types of misconduct in Seadrift's sexual harassment policy. It was also determined he sexually harassed one subordinate employee by sending flowers and inappropriate text messages and images. The city's policy prohibits making obscene comments, jokes, or gestures that would humiliate or offend someone.
This afternoon around 2 o'clock, authorities were busy with a semi-truck fire. It happened in the 1900 block of US 59 North. Authorities say someone driving by the truck alerted the driver to that fire. The driver was able to pull over and get out safely. On Monday, Victoria police officers arrested this man, 21-year-old Brandon Garcia of Rosenberg. Police were in the 600 block of King Arthur Street around 6:45 p.m. for a report about a stolen vehicle. Authorities found the car and the suspect about 15 minutes later in the 5100 block of Houston Highway. Police say Garcia tried to run, but they caught up with him. He faces multiple charges.
The Amber Alert for a missing girl in Princeton, Texas is still active. 14-year-old Jerma Strotter was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt and gray sweatpants with white stripe and black house shoes. The suspect is a 34-year-old black man named Lee Carter III. The vehicle they were last seen in was a black 2014 Mercedes E35 with a license plate that reads RNS 2973. If you have any information about their whereabouts, please call 911.
The Texas Tribune reports House Speaker Dade Phelan announced a new proposal supported by both the House and Governor Abbott that would send $12.3 billion to school districts so they can lower their tax rates.
And so here is your viewer poll this afternoon. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. The question is, do you want lawmakers to send $12.3 billion to school districts to lower their tax rates? Yes or no? We want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we will have an update on 25 News Now at 6.
All right, you've seen all the memes that we're melting. It's hot, yes, and it's serious too. It can be dangerous. Let's check in with Mac.
Yeah, I keep thinking of the witch in Wizard of Oz. I'm melting. We're all sort of melting. Not a lot of hope for any change in our world. In fact, we're going to be dealing with this for quite some time, if not 3 or 4 months. While we do have some clouds over our area, all the big stuff is actually in Georgia and down in Florida, where they're getting some big rain. We'll talk about the oppressive heat that's going to be with us for quite some time a little bit later on, so stay tuned. James, Karina, back to you.
Mac, thank you very much. Governor Abbott signed several bills related to the fentanyl crisis at the Texas Capitol. One of the new laws allows prosecutors to consider fentanyl deaths murder. The governor was joined by fentanyl advocates and families who have lost loved ones to fentanyl. In a tweet, Governor Abbott said Texas will ensure victims of fentanyl poisoning and their families get the justice they deserve.
4 laws that will forever change Texas. They include laws that will educate young Texans on the dangers of fentanyl, provide more Narcan to our colleges and universities, prosecute fentanyl deaths for what they are. That is murders. It now will be a murder in Texas. And ensure that death certificates reflect when people are poisoned by this terrible drug.
The bill was passed by state lawmakers in March. Authorities have revealed plans to repair the highway in Philadelphia where the I-95 bridge collapsed.
New video shows the moment the truck burst into flames underneath the bridge.
3 days after that fiery I-95 collapse in Philadelphia, officials announcing plans to rebuild the stretch of highway that came crashing down Sunday morning.
We have determined collectively that the most efficient way to reopen I-95 is to backfill the gap in the roadway behind me and then pave over it.
It comes as investigators comb through this video showing the moment the fire ignited. That tanker truck hauling gasoline crashed and caught fire underneath the overpass. The medical examiner identifying the truck driver as 53-year-old Nathaniel Moody, his body pulled from the wreckage. His family says he leaves behind 3 children. The collapse upending traffic locally and regionally, some drivers navigating through detours dozens of miles long.
You don't realize how much that cripples the city.
The economic ripple effect just as consequential. Secretary Buttigieg getting a first-hand look at the destruction on Tuesday. He says consumers well beyond Philadelphia may experience price increases since it will cost more for trucks to detour around the collapse. The governor issuing a disaster declaration for the rebuilding process today, vowing to make sure the bridge is restored quickly, but also safely.
When y'all are sleeping in the middle of the night, when I'm sleeping in the middle of the night, these guys are going to be working on this road.
The investigation continues and a preliminary report on this incident expected in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm Morgan Norwood, ABC News, New York.
The Fort Worth City Council honored 2 police officers for rescuing a baby taken during a car theft. It happened back in May. Sergeant Ronnie Chow and Officer Stephen Smith responded to the call about an abandoned 6-month-old. Investigators believe the suspect dumped the child who was in the mother's stolen car.
Incredible feeling. I've been a police officer for 22 years, and this is probably the proudest day of my career.
It was a group effort, and all we were worried about was the baby. And at the end of the day, that's what we're worried about.
The child was not hurt, and police charged Elliot Reyes with abandoning and endangering a child and auto theft. In Virginia, the Rich Neck Elementary School teacher who police say was shot by her 6-year-old student has resigned.
Abby Zwerner has taken legal action against the Newport News Public Schools.
The first-grade Virginia teacher that police say was shot by her student is no longer employed as a Rich Neck Elementary School teacher as of Monday, June 12th. The school district released these emails from March that show Abby Zwerner emailed them saying she wished to resign. The email was in response to the district's yearly intent form for teachers to fill out for their upcoming school year to see if their contract needs to be renewed. The district says they then followed up with 2 emails confirming her June separation date.
If you get an email from an employee that says, I would like to resign, then that means that they are resigning.
Zorner's attorney, Jeffrey Bright, claims she has not been paid since February and claims she has not received a response for the disability claim she filed. Bright says she did not take workers' compensation because it would impact their negligence claims and the $40 million lawsuit they have filed against the school district.
The workers' comp bar would bar you from proceeding against your employer in court under kind of a negligence theory because workers' comp is that's your remedy.
The school district says Zwerner refused to accept the workers' compensation. Because of that, the district says HR paid out her sick leave until it was depleted. Because she didn't accept the workers' comp, she was placed on unpaid FMLA, which they say was in accordance with federal law and school board policy.
If she had filed for workers' comp right after this happened, she couldn't turn around and sue them for negligence. And so it's kind of, she can't have her cake and eat it too. Had she elected to choose the workers' comp route, she would have gotten 60-something% of her salary tax-free.
Deja Taylor, the mother of the student accused in the shooting, pleaded guilty Monday to using marijuana while possessing a firearm. She also faces state charges of felony child neglect and reckless storage of a firearm.
Here's some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave this week. Law enforcement made 19 weekly arrests in the month of June, and the Calhoun County Commissioner's Court awarded a bid for a new dispatch facility. Plus, Ruth Plum, a Port Lavaca resident, celebrated 100 years on June 10th. You can read these stories and more at theportlavacawave.com.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click on the notification bell. Stay with us Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5. At least 79 migrants are dead, with multiple feared missing after a fishing boat capsized and sank off the coast of Greece.
Also ahead, Donald Trump raised over $2 million at his fundraiser event in New Jersey. A fishing boat carrying migrants capsized and sank off the coast of Greece, leaving at least 79 people dead and many more missing. Coast Guard, Navy, and merchant vessels searched Wednesday in a vast search and rescue operation. Authorities said 104 people were rescued so far after the boat sank overnight in international waters in an area close to one of the deepest parts of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, while it's unclear how many passengers remain in the water or trapped, initial reports suggest hundreds of people were on board. Former President Donald Trump is getting a fundraising boost after his federal indictment. He raised more than $2 million at his fundraising event in New Jersey, hours after his court appearance. Trump denies any wrongdoing and has pleaded not guilty to 37 charges involving his handling of classified documents. He's already facing criminal charges stemming from an earlier indictment in New York. He's also under investigation in Georgia for efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election.
Children may spend a lot of time watching screens to occupy themselves over the summer.
While devices and other screens may have a place in a child's life, health experts say too much use can lead to problems.
From gaming consoles to TVs, smartphones, and tablets, children and teens spend a lot of time watching screens.
Most children, school-age children, are spending in excess of 7 hours a day on screens.
Wendy Palmer with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Strong for Life says recommended screen times vary based on a child's age, but for those old enough to go to school, less than 2 hours a day is the recommendation.
Screen time, when it is excessive, can impact sleep, it can impact physical activity, and most recently, the clearest evidence is really looking at the impact of excessive screen time on youth mental health.
To limit summer screen time, Palmer says to keep some school year routines in place. Set screen-free zones, especially in bedrooms or on short car rides. Use that time to talk to each other instead. Make a commitment to having no devices at dinner. That goes for parents too. And she says it's okay for your kids to be bored.
Boredom is a necessary component to kids really learning and adapting and figuring out how else can they entertain themselves.
Palmer says to encourage kids to be active and to play in person with others, whether that's outdoors or inside.
Drawing, thinking about writing, thinking about reading, really encouraging some of those behaviors that our kids may now associate with, well, I go to school and I do those things. Those are certainly opportunities at home.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Internet personality Andrew Tate was served with legal papers by UK lawyers representing victims who have made claims of assault and rape against him. The letter details allegations made by 4 women, including violent rapes, serious physical assaults, and controlling behavior. The letter was delivered in Tate's address in Bucharest, Romania, Wednesday. He's currently under house arrest on charges of human trafficking. Prosecutors investigating the Rust movie set shooting are deciding whether to refile charges against Alec Baldwin. Prosecutors dismissed involuntary manslaughter charges against Baldwin back in April, but that decision was temporary. Court records show the gun and broken sear were sent to the state's independent expert for more testing. If it's determined the gun did not malfunction, Baldwin could face charges. The filing was for the case of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. She was the film's armorer who faced involuntary manslaughter charges in the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
Here are your top headlines you can read in the Cuero Record this week. Cuero Floats place a win at the Yoakum Tom Tom Festival, and Cuero Future Farmers of America showcase their projects across the state of Texas. Plus, the Cuero High School class of 1973 is set to celebrate their 50th reunion Saturday, July 15th at the Cuero Country Club. You can read these stories and more at DeWittCountyToday.com.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. The heat goes on. Temperatures not exactly going to give us a break. We'll take a look at that and also show you where all the big thunderstorms are today. All that coming up in a moment. Stay tuned. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Port Lavaca, where all the Juneteenth stuff's happening this weekend. Shall we just say we have to dress accordingly and get ready for almost no kind of break in the humidity. Right now, we're about 92, but with the humidity, it feels like 106. So that's the problem. The other thing you've been probably noticing that it's been kind of hazy. Well, when we have an unstable sky, when thunderstorms build up, we have beautiful blue skies because the atmosphere is unstable. Air rises up. Right now, we have very stable skies and therefore everything's sinking. So basically it's moisture, humidity, and dust and pollution and all that, but it's not your imagination. It's a little hazy out there. Looking at temperatures at 87 down in Port O'Connor, not bad. 92 for Victoria, but inland areas like Gonzales and Karn City are running at 97. Of course, they don't have the humidity we do, but they also have a lot more temperatures that are going to be above 100 over the next few days. All the big stuff is actually occurring to the north and east of us. This is, of course, Louisiana right about here. Big thunderstorms have been firing and producing rain over much of the southeastern United States. And here's the funny part. They're very excited because they've been in a drought, so they're getting some beneficial rains, but they're also getting some hail and possible tornadoes. Hail has been the biggest factor where they've been getting a lot of hail. Of course, hail's not good for trees. I don't know if you've ever seen a hailstorm that passes through. It strips all the leaves off the tree. It's really funny how that works. All of a sudden, you've got a tree and it's got no leaves on it because the hail came and blew it all away. Well, we just putting out this heat advice for everybody. The first one is find air conditioning. If you don't know where it is, just go to the mall and walk around. Avoid strenuous activities. I'm talking, you know, heavy activity, working outdoors in a jackhammer or something like that. If you're driving a truck, you're fine. If you're even riding a lawnmower, that's fine if you're getting some breeze blowing, but no wind, isolated, and high humidity is a problem. Wear light clothing, check out family members that you don't know what they're up to, see how they're up to, get plenty of water. Watch for the heat cramps and exhaustion and heat stroke, and never leave your pets or people in the back seat of a car, especially under these kinds of situations. Well, 94 for us right about now. We take a look around the state, and there's not a whole lot of relief in sight. You see 91 up in Dallas, 100 to 103 along the Texas border. And these are the forecast highs for tomorrow. So we're expected to go up about 2 degrees, and that's because pressure actually strengthens over us. And you notice how even Laredo will be at 110, 107 in Del Rio, and up to 100 up in the San Angelo is actually going to be at 105. Yeah, all of us basically from Waco south are under the heat advisory. And that's obviously we got to be concerned with the oppressive heat. Up here, northeast Texas and all the way east, is where all the thunder showers are happening, and actually their temperatures are being cooled down by the amount of rain posing through the region. But remember, we have this bubble of high pressure on top of us. That's going to be there for quite some time, months as a matter of fact. And until it moves, we're under a very, very warm weather situation. So for those of you in Port Lavaca, you get up at 82 in the morning, you'll be at 93 in the afternoon because of that sea breeze. For Cuero, you wake up at 80 degrees and get up to about 98 because a lot more sunshine inland. As you can see right about there, the alert day is on for tomorrow. It means everybody's going to be dealing with the heat. We'll stay hovering at 100, 101, 99, somewhere around there. But our heat index will be running at 110 for the next 7 days. That's your 7-day forecast. I want to remind everybody we've got a QR code. Scan that with your phone and put Crossroads Today on your phone, and you can take us wherever you need to go. Karina, James, back to you.
Mac, thank you. Coming up next, we'll take a look at your stocks. Plus, the Federal Reserve holds rates steady, pausing its rate hiking campaign.
Taking a look at your stocks, the Dow falling 233 points, the S&P 500 gaining 4 points, and the Nasdaq up 54 points. Oil down $1.15, closing at $68.27 a barrel. The Federal Reserve has voted to skip an interest rate increase for now. In a post-meeting statement today, the Fed said it would pause its historic rate hiking campaign to see how the economy responds. Leaders have raised the central bank's benchmark interest rate 10 times in a row since March in an attempt to cool the U.S. economy and battle inflation that is still double the Fed's target. The Fed also signaled additional rate hikes are likely this year.
New York has set a minimum wage of $17.96 an hour for app-based food delivery workers, not including tips. Delivery workers were only making $11 on average per hour after you take into account tips and expenses. That's well below the $15 an hour minimum wage for the city's non-tip workers. Because it's expensive being a food delivery driver in New York, leaders are boosting the pay to get people up to that minimum wage.
Stay with us. We'll take one last look at your forecast. Plus, here's a picture of what the surface of Mars looks like in both the morning and afternoon. We want to invite you to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon, Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and on your cell phone. Just search Crossroads Today Plus.
Take a look at this. NASA's Curiosity rover sent back a stunning postcard of what Mars' surface looks like at different times of the day. The picture is a combination of black and white panoramas captured in the morning and the afternoon. Color was later added. The blue light signifies morning and the yellow indicates the afternoon. The shadows are more pronounced in the image because the photos were taken during winter when airborne dust is closer to the surface. Curiosity was exploring the Gale crater since it arrived on Mars in 2012. Wow.
Aww.
Wow.
Nice.
Does it run on a battery? Because that's a long time.
Right? No, who knows?
Who knows what they run? They probably have solar panels on it.
I remember reading that it was solar power somewhere.
amazing?
Okay, that makes sense.
So they
yeah.
put a little robot out on Mars and it's powered by the sun, which is a million miles that way. Pretty amazing. Well, it may be 93 million miles away. The sun is 93 million miles away.
We feel it right here.
But it feels like a whole lot closer right about now. So we're just going to have to learn to deal with it, because this is just the first beginning of it. And I expect the summer to be like this pretty much all 3 months of it. Looking at a 97 for tomorrow's high and hovering at about 100 over the weekend. There's no hope and no change in sight. So basically we've got to learn to deal with it. And for all of the outdoor events coming up this weekend, just take plenty of fluids, get a hat, wear light clothing, and don't get a sunburn, because that doesn't help you.
Bring your sunscreen.
Yeah, bring your sunscreen. We're all going to smell good, aren't we?
And check on your neighbor, right?
Absolutely.
Make
You
sure
know,
they
if you have any
water
friends
and
and neighbors
everything
that
they
don't have air conditioning, just check in on them.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Mac. Thank you for being with us. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today.
That's right, and we hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 6. World News Tonight with David Muir is up next.